Hi, I'm Rita Scott. You're watching Smack Talk.
Hi everybody and welcome to Smack Talk. My name's Rich and, well, it's finally happened. Dave Wishnowski, Overlord and Grandmaster of Pro Wrestling X, is here with me to answer some questions. How's it going, buddy?
Oh Christ, I've never been introduced that way. If you're going to be honest, you should at least add in the titles of toilet scrubber and I don't know. There's some other shit, man. I'm doing good, buddy. Thanks a lot for doing this today. I really appreciate it, man. Happy to answer some questions.
No problem at all. Obviously, we've got some fans and haters, weirdos, whatever you want to call them, that have all been throwing questions at you. And these are kind of, I suppose, the FAQs, if you like, the most asked questions that you get.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We get a ton of questions from people, and we don't always have, one good spot to answer them all. And so I'm happy to do it here on your podcast, man. It should be fun.
Yeah, wicked. Okay, so why don't we just get straight into number one? And we'll get straight in with it. So, first question on the list: will PWX be ported to console?
Yes. Short answer is yes, absolutely. The engine we built it on already is running on, all the current gen consoles. It's just really a matter of getting the game together to a complete enough package that we can justify putting it on a console as a separate build, a separate sort of version of the game, right? So we absolutely want to do it, but as people probably know from watching the history of the project, we are a small team with very limited resources, and right now we're focused on working on the PC version and getting that to the point we want to get it to, and then maybe we can look at porting to console.
That sounds cool. I mean, for guys and girls that are non-game developers, a lot of people are under the impression that obviously games are developed on PC, and then the console itself is basically just, just shove it on the console. Like, it's the same game, What exactly, I'm kind of picking your brains here, but what exactly takes it from a PC game to a console game?
Well, I mean, for example, every console has their own set of rules and regulations for how games run and perform on their consoles, right? So, for instance, we could technically have the game up and running on the Xbox One like tomorrow, but in order for them to agree to publish it, you have a whole bunch of specs that you need to meet. In terms of Microsoft, you have to integrate certain aspects of their service, Xbox Live and their community functions and things like that. And it's got to be up to certain technical specs, whatnot. That we're not really bound by that on the PC. One of the great things about PC is that we can constantly update the game with bleeding edge, unfinished updates and let people kick the tires and take it for a test drive, knowing that it's not running perfectly at that time, maybe buggy and glitchy. But you can't drop something like that on console. It's got to be a fairly tight, bug tested, glitch free experience. I mean, arguably, even some of the big companies fail to actually pull that off. There's infamous releases of AAA quality console games that people think have been rushed and not quality tested. So we haven't been through that process yet. We've been talking to other developers who've gone through the certification process to have their games on console. And from what I understand, it's quite a really intense process. And we're happy to do it. Just want to get the game ready and up to snuff first.
Absolutely, and you're quite right. Obviously, there are AAA titles that get launched and they are a buggy mess. On PC and console. I've played a few of them, and people kick off then. So I don't think there's really any way that you can please everybody at once. But one of the big things is obviously time, and you mentioned the history of PWX in that answer there. So it brings me neatly onto the second question, which is how much time has exactly been spent developing PWX so far?
Oh my God. I think we're pushing 15 years now. I mean, when you say Pro Wrestling X, it's kind of a misnomer. Like, that doesn't really apply to the current version of the game. Like, we've built Pro Wrestling X and started over multiple times over that long history of the project, right? So over those 15 years, God, we've had at least a half a dozen versions of Pro Wrestling X built. Some of them we shipped, some of them we haven't, some we kept internal, some we made public. But it's been a long time, man. But the current version of Pro Wrestling X that you get on Steam right now has been in development for, I want to say, about 3 years or so. And it was built from scratch as well. The version you play on Steam right now has almost nothing in common with any of the versions that came before it. It's all new code, it's all new art assets, 100% again from the ground up.
Yeah, it is a very different game. I remember, when I saw it getting essentially relaunched. So I remember those initial screenshots from there was like a warehouse with a ring in it. I always thought they would kick ass, and I'd love to see that come back in the current build if it's possible. But
yeah,
for this game as it stands, the last 3 years, so much growth's been happening, and obviously a lot of interest.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, we are so lucky to have the core crew, like art and animation and programming, that we have right now, because even though the crew is smaller than it's almost ever been, it's infinitely more productive than it ever was before. I mean, at one time, we had like a dozen people under one roof, were working and cranking on Pro Wrestling X. And those are great people and no fault of theirs, but they weren't wrestling fans necessarily, right? So now we arguably have the best lead programmer we could possibly want to program this game, because all he cares about, all he really gives a shit about, is wrestling games. So yeah, he might not have a resume with AAA titles like Call of Duty or something on his resume, but that's okay, because this is exactly what he wants to do. And because he's a huge wrestling fan and a huge wrestling gamer, and we like the same wrestling games, he doesn't need to have his hand held and be told what to do. Everybody right now, we operate more like a rock band, it as weird as it might sound, we're not really operating like a traditional industrialized kind of software company, where people at the top make decisions and then hand them down to the guys who do the work and get it done. Our core crew, we do talk, and we all agree on kind of where we should head next and what's important. But by and large, everybody contributes whatever the hell they want to. And it works so beautifully because we all kind of want the same thing, and we're all willing to take batshit crazy risks and try stupid new things just to have a laugh sometimes, it's really great not having to work under an overlord of, some corporate producer or something like that telling us what to do. It's awesome.
So maybe my intro of giving you the title of Overlord was misplaced.
Maybe benevolent overlord. I don't know. Yeah.
Overlord. It's kind of like Tamatonga saying he's a good guy and then changing back to his natural state.
Oh well, sometimes, believe me, man. Sometimes I've been. I'm a pretty non-confrontational, nice guy. Most of the times, I will avoid confrontation and fight and whatever if I possibly can. But in the long history of this project, definitely been pushed into situations where you have to be the bad guy, but not necessarily the bad guy, but it's kind of like you have to be a bigger asshole than the one asshole who's trying to take you down. You know what I mean? So yeah, I could talk for hours on, what I've learned and how I've grown just as a person, having to fight some pretty tough battles along the way,
Well, imagine. Obviously, there are things that make you, in the eyes of the general public that are viewing the game, quote unquote, a bad guy. I wouldn't say so. I know you pretty well, after years of talking with you over the project and trying to submit art assets and stuff and getting involved. My love for the game's deep, but obviously there are people who have some more serious questions relating to money, profit, that kind of thing. So the clarity for those guys and girls, how much has been spent developing PWX so far?
Well, if you look at the entire history of the project, and honestly, I don't fault anyone who looks at Pro Wrestling X and thinks, oh, it's vaporware, it's a scam, the guy steals money from people. if you only look at the surface of something and you say this game, quote unquote, has been in development for 15 years and the current version is all we have to show for it, well, that's probably how it looks on the surface. But like you say, we've been really transparent from day one, putting out completely 100% honest newsletters and updates. And if anybody's actually read those and followed those, then they really do know what's been going on and what a struggle it's been sometimes. And we've made mistakes, colossal mistakes. I am personally responsible for some of the most hugely embarrassing public frickin' mistakes you could possibly make when developing a game, right? But it is what it is. You fall down, you get the hell back up. But I mean, since day one, we've done, we had a successful Kickstarter. We did a nice launch on Steam Early Access, and back in the early days, I took out loans and took private investment and whatnot to make the game. And if you added it all up, just doing the quick math in my head here, I'd say we're probably pushing $400,000 spent to get this far. And it's funny. It sounds like a lot of money, and it is. Believe me, before I started this project, I thought $4,000 was a lot of money, and it is. But it doesn't go far sometimes when you're paying industry standard salaries and stuff for a crew for stretches of time, and you got the overhead of the office and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't go too far. I think we've only actually ever been formally full-time funded for a period of about 2 years, like 12 years ago, and ever since then we've just gotten by on the graces of crew that, sometimes they get paid, sometimes they don't. And when they do, it's usually not a lot, but everybody's kind of in it for the love of the project. Right. I honestly, I couldn't be more thankful for the support like people have given us on Kickstarter campaign and buying the game in early access. It's been all awesome. And also something, the quote unquote haters sometimes miss is that since day one, we've had a 100% refund policy. Don't like what you paid for, we'll give you your money back. And we have, when people ask for it. So yeah, it can, with some people, it can definitely be like a stigma you have to overcome that we've been at it this long. But then other people, depending on how you look at it, they're really, really impressed by the tenacity of like, holy crap, you've been at this for this many years and have not quit or stopped. That's impressive. It's not a bad thing, So you take the good with the bad.
I mean, that's the key element, isn't it? It's like 15 years development cycle. We're talking like Duke Nukem Forever kind of territory at this point. And, that game got released and it made it out onto consoles, onto PC. Whether people liked it or not, that's subjective. But the fundamental thing of that is people obviously always think about, I've spent this amount of money on a game and I want to know what I'm getting and where that money's going. So like with Duke Nukem Forever, obviously people spent, the amount of money they spent on supporting that game and got the game they got. So in terms of, we've talked about in terms of how much has been spent developing PWX, and people want to ask, and I think it's a bit of a personal question, so feel free to, not answer if you wish, but people are asking, how much money have you personally made from PWX as the overall development lead?
Wow, fair enough, man. I think the only time I ever actually made like an actual wage, like I was able to take a salary at all from Pro Wrestling X was back in the, again, about 12 years ago when I had raised some funding to open the full-time studio, and everybody got paid in that phase, and I think, just doing the quick math in my head here, because I didn't take a salary for long before funds started running low, and when you run the company, you're the last guy to get paid, not the first, right? I think over the last 15 years, I think I might have pulled in, I don't know, I want to say maybe $20,000 over 15 years. So I did the math once where, if I actually paid myself for every hour of work I actually put into this project, I stopped counting when it got as low as I think I was earning at that point about 5 cents an hour.
Oh man, that's such familiar territory.
So yeah, when times were good, yeah, I paid myself, and when times were bad, I kept working for nothing. So, but it's not really about. And I know this sounds like a hippie bullshit thing to say, but it really isn't about paying myself to work on Pro Wrestling X. I just want to make this game that we all believe in and get it out there and do what you love, and man, the money will follow. It's the wrong kind of person who the first question they ask is, how much am I getting paid?
Mm-hmm.
And I know it sounds like a bullshit company owner kind of thing, that people shouldn't care about how much they get paid. Well, no, of course you should. But if that's your main motivating factor, it's not going to work. And in the past, when I had money to pay people, I had a lineup of people wanting to work on Pro Wrestling X, and I thought it was because they gave a shit about Pro Wrestling X. And some of them, yes, they did, but a very substantial chunk of them, when the money started, stopping, so did they. And I don't fault them for that. People got to make a living and do all that, but that's the difference between just building a product or making art like we are now. And it feels funny to say making art, but that's what we're doing, man. We are not a game development software company, man. We are a garage band right now, just trying to write some cool tunes that people like, essential.
Well, yeah, and you and I have had this discussion before as like entrepreneurs and kind of gone over what that means, to be an entrepreneur. And the way I liken it to is my motivating factor in what I do with designs and, with Smack Talk and everything else is the knowledge that those shirts are now part of Wrestling Pantheon forever, right? They can never go away. Anyone that's bought one now owns that piece of history. And to have had a hand in that and to get pictures sent to me like Marty Scurll wearing one of my shirts and the Bullet Club wearing all of them wearing one of my shirts is like the most insane thing. And that to me means so much more than getting paid. Like it sounds really stupid. And when the bill collectors come round later in the month and go, well, you can't pay me in a photo of the Bullet Club, mate. I was like, well, sorry, but that meant more to me than anything. So.
Oh, absolutely, man. I still look with, like a mark at pictures of AJ Styles wearing this Pro Wrestling X t-shirt.
Yeah, that's got to feel incredible, right?
Yeah, and honestly, it felt pretty fucking incredible the first time an investor gave me $10,000. I drove home with my head out the window screaming at the top of my lungs, yeehaw, because that was huge for me, raising money and being able to pay people does feel good, and it's awesome. But it's also those little things, like watching Raw and seeing somebody in a Pro Wrestling X t-shirt in the front row is pretty freaking, you can't buy that, Yeah,
that's a lifelong dream right there, isn't it, And
I think one of the most defining kind of moments for me, like knowing that, okay, I'm on the right track here, was I think after 10 years of different prototypes and blah, 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 and releasing versions that were good or not good. A few years ago, the reviews for Pro Wrestling X, people started saying shit like, this feels like an Aki game. Or this could be like as cool as Revenge or No Mercy. Like these guys get it. I think that's one of the greatest kind of rewards is like to have someone you've never met before play a game that you help bring to life and having them actually say, this reminds me of No Mercy. Yeah, it's not as big as No Mercy. It's not as great as No Mercy in a lot of ways yet. But to have anyone actually say that they can feel that love for that kind of wrestling game in our game just shows to me that we really are artists, we're not just cogs in a machine pumping out game code. You know what I mean? Like the game actually is a reflection of the people literally making it. And that's awesome. Like someone asked me once, when are we ever going to make a WWE game? And I hope never. I really don't want to take a paycheck to make somebody else's idea of a fun wrestling game. Not even a fun wrestling game. To me, that's just cranking out product, And all due respect to to the team that make the WWE games. That's great. I'm glad they're doing well and people like what they do. But the greatest reward that we get making Pro Wrestling X is knowing that we all have creative input and that people are digging it. And I wouldn't trade that. I wouldn't trade that for a payday to make somebody else's game, you know?
Sure. I mean, what would, hypothetically speaking, if you were going to make, say, WWE contacted you tomorrow and said, 2K suck and we want to go with you guys, what would you do differently from 2K to make them a happy customer of your development team?
Well, you see, that's just it. I think 2K is nailing the WWE games. I mean, I know we all have nostalgia for the old Aki games and whatnot, and that's all cool. But I mean, in terms of like the product that you see when you watch SmackDown or Raw or the pay-per-views, I really think 2K is nailing that close to perfectly. I mean, the 2K WWE games, they look like WWE games. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't think, I honestly don't know. It's a conversation I would definitely have if the phone rang, but I can't imagine why they wouldn't like the 2K games. They just sell their license to them. They make the games, they pay, they cash their checks. And I honestly think WWE is thrilled with the 2K game arrangement, if they wanted us to actually do something along the lines of the tone and the presentation we're doing now, would I slap a coat of WWE paint on what we're doing? Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see doing like a WWE themed version of Pro Wrestling X, but as long as we stayed in control of the underlying gaming experience that we've created, if a company said, we'll pay you to make a wrestling game, but you got to take out the physics, you got to take out the mature themes, you got to watch your language. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Like I've got absolutely no interest in doing that. Maybe it's because I'm getting old and I could give two shits about the cool kids picking me. I don't give a fuck. Like doing what we're doing. The crew is happy doing what we're doing, and I wouldn't risk changing the joy we feel right now for a paycheck. Yeah,
that's absolutely the thing, isn't it? I mean, you got to keep it your core belief and structure at the heart of everything, because the definition of sellout, isn't it? If you go for the big payday over your beliefs.
But you also have to work with people that share the same values as you, right? Like, for all I know, my crew is all cringing right now, going, "No, dude, take the check. Come on, we want to buy a house."
You can almost hear them now. I can hear them from here.
Yeah, I know, right? But I think they would honestly. I feel in my heart that the core crew would agree with that. Like if they can't retain creative freedom over what they're doing, it's not worth it to sell that out. Now, if WWE came and said, "Here's a blank check. You make the WWE game you guys want to make, deliver it in 2 years, and we'll take it," that's tempting. That's really tempting, right? For one, I would probably kill to get my hands on the NXT license over WWE. No offense. You know what I mean? It's been done. It's been done to death. And I'd rather do something interesting than something just for the payday.
Sure. Well, let's change tack on that then. So there's a wealth of companies out there. WWE's, your New Japan Pro Wrestling's. Who is the ideal? Like, if you were approached by one company, putting you on the spot for this one, who do you want? AEW? Who is it?
Lucha Underground.
Really?
Lucha Underground would be my number one choice if they would let us make a game for them. You know what I mean? I love the product. I love the presentation. I love the quality of it. If I have 1 hour a week to watch wrestling, I'm watching Lucha Underground. Now that might change. Like, AEW is, brand new on the scene. I haven't been to any of their events or seen anyone on TV yet, but they seem like they're doing all the right things, and it's definitely a vote of confidence. Some of the guys who signed on with them, it's making me think, okay, this is going to be cool, but so we'll see how that goes, but I mean, there is no indie wrestling company around the world that I wouldn't talk to about working together, because we love wrestling. all wrestling. Hell, I would give me the Glow license. We have fun with that.
Awesome.
You know?
Do you know what? And that is a license that's never been touched, in terms of video gaming, and it would be insane, right? Especially with the women's revolution, evolution, whatever you want to call it, that's going on right now.
It would be fun. It would be different. It would be interesting. It would make me smile to work on it, But working with different wrestling companies, like we've learned this, and I run with a really cool circle of other wrestling game developers who have also experimented with working with different wrestling companies, right? And I'm definitely not shy of talking about my experiences trying to work with other wrestling companies, right? And it's just such a tricky area to navigate, because other than WWE, most other wrestling companies don't own the wrestlers. The wrestlers aren't under exclusive contract to them, so that's what makes it tricky. Like, as much as I would love to work with, just like, say, like Ring of Honor would be an awesome game to make, but signing a deal with Ring of Honor would be a lot of work to negotiate that out, right? And then at the end of the day, you still have to go and individually sign agreements with each individual wrestler and negotiate like that, right? So, it gets really tricky. And then you get to a point where you're like, this is going to cost X amount of dollars to make. Are there enough Ring of Honor fans to even make this financially viable? Like, as an example, right? Like there is a reason. there is a reason why WWE wrestling games are the only wrestling games, right? Like, where's the Impact game? Where is the Ring of Honor game, Lucha Underground game? Where are these? These are really successful companies in their own right. Where is their game? They don't exist not because they can't be made. They exist because it doesn't make financial sense unless you are the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room like WWE with that amount of fans, And
that's a really interesting point and very accurate, because it's funny, you got the fan bases there. Like, you go on the marketplace, or what's it called, the creation suite on WWE 2K games, and you go into like the fan-made creator wrestlers and the creator arenas and all this. And there's hundreds and thousands of Lucha Undergrounds and TNAs or Impact Wrestlings or New Japan rings, or, all the talents from across companies globally, to even indie wrestlers that you've never heard of before. It's the same in Fire Pro World. The same thing exists. There's thousands upon thousands of fan-made rings and wrestlers. Yeah. And yet those companies, as you said, they have the contracts for certain wrestlers, but they don't own their images, or they don't own, all these things. So really, the only way to get them in the games is to create them yourself.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of the game's creation tools like Fire Pro and even WWE games are powerful enough that most people can create fairly accurate versions of almost any wrestler, assuming they have the accurate animations and moves for them and stuff, So then it becomes a question of, and we struggled with this ourselves, right? Like, for me to, and people always tell me to shut the fuck up about money. No, don't talk money. Don't tell anybody how much shit costs. But why not, right? Why lie?
Oh, yeah.
Like, to create a wrestler from scratch and to pay a good artist and animator to actually, do their character model and their attire, and especially their animations. Unless they have a completely old school standard moveset where their finisher is a pile driver or a suplex, you have to create custom animations for them, right?
Sure.
And like, at its base, the least expensive it would take for me to create like a wrestler from scratch is at least $5,000, like, to pay an artist industry standard wages to do it, right?
And that's per wrestler.
That's per wrestler, man. Now, obviously, it scales. Once you've done and animated like 100 wrestlers, your pool of available art assets grows, and it costs you less to recycle stuff you already have. You know what I mean? So, like, as you get more and more animations, you're able to cover more and more wrestlers' movesets without having to create too much brand new stuff, right? So, yeah, obviously, it costs us more now because we have a very limited set of art assets. What we have is friggin' great and awesome and amazing. But to create these large movesets and stuff for people can cost a lot of money, and then you have to ask yourself, okay, how much can you sell a wrestler for in the marketplace right now, as a downloadable content, right? What are people willing to pay for their favorite indie wrestler? I would wager they're not used to paying much, that they would be offended if you ask more than 99 cents for a wrestler, right? And at that point, Steam takes 30% off the top. You're going to have to split the revenue with the wrestler 50-50. At least I would. That's what I want to do, right? So you're left with maybe at the end of the day 30 cents per download. Now when it costs at least $5,000, let's do the math, right? How many people are going to have to pay for that wrestler for me to even break even, right?
Yeah,
a shit ton. So there's some very real, financial considerations where, man, okay, if I won the lottery tomorrow and I had like a couple $1,000,000, I would pay for all this and give it all away for free. Like, yeehaw, let's have some fun, But we have to be responsible and make sure that the things we do are things people are going to want. It's
absolutely. I mean, that is spot on, and I know that's a fact about you, is from talking to you over the time, is that you would gladly give away Person X constantly throughout the whole cycle if you could.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're changing the model, I believe, aren't you? You mentioned before about in other Q&A sessions on YouTube, on your channel, where you said about changing the model of Pro Wrestling X to a free to play, or that kind of model.
Yeah, we're looking at all sorts of models right now, right? Like everything from free to play to subscription based to God knows what, because this model right now of pay up front for a full game and then you're done is just not working for like projects of our size and scope, right? Like if you're Grand Theft Auto or something, you can charge $60 for a game and people are happy to do it, right? But I don't think at the pace we're going now, the current business model of just charging a one-time fee works anymore. I'm not sure that, and honestly, I don't know how big the market for a wrestling game is until we've got like this super awesome game to offer everyone. Then we can see what people are willing to pay for, what they want to play, right? So we do have to take a good hard look at, okay, this isn't working anymore. So we're going to have to make a pretty bold, freaking ballsy decision moving forward. And we've got some ideas, but honestly, we still don't know exactly what that's going to be. We're going to have to do something here in the next, few months, and really respond to the change in the game industry, in the marketplace. I mean, God, Microsoft is working on a subscription-based, almost Netflix-like model for games these days, where people won't be buying games individually anymore, at least on their console. And, things are just really, really like the Wild West right now. And you can sit back and complain. You can go, oh, the industry is changing. It doesn't, it's not working for the little guy anymore. Well, you can bitch and complain about it, or you can make some decisions, make some changes, and gamble, man.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's adapt or die, isn't it? But then it begs the question, and fans have been asking, why not just quit? Why not just go? Do you know what? We've been in this 15 years. We're in the hole, money wise or whatever, and we're busting our ass to make this game, and we're doing everything we can, and people are giving us shit for it. And why not just quit?
Well, honestly, man, the easy answer would say, well, look at all the people that support us and what we want to do, and you don't want to let them down. That's a given, right? I don't want to be an example to anyone that if shit doesn't pan out the way you expect it to, you quit. Fuck that. You don't, right? I'm a big believer in you've got goal A and you don't quit until you've gotten to that goal. You might need a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, whatever. But I said from day one, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to quit until I get there. So we're not, right? And I've been asked this question by one of my mentors about 5-6 years ago when we were really in the shit. Like oh God, it was probably one of the lowest points. And even he was like, why don't you just call it a day, man, and go open a pub or something, But Honestly, because it bugs me. Not that I haven't been proven right yet people will want Pro Wrestling X, but I haven't been proven wrong yet either, because people haven't had a chance yet to play the kind of game that the crew and I envision and want to deliver, right? Mm-hmm. Once we put it out there and go, this is Pro Wrestling X, warts and all, freaking throw it on the wall, and we're proud of this 100%. This is what we want to give the world. If at that point people come back and say, not interested, all right, then maybe it's time to think about pivoting to something else, right? But I haven't been proven wrong yet. I haven't given people a chance to really play the game that I want to make and be proven wrong. So, like I say, man, when we get there and 100% of the people think it sucks, all right, maybe it's time for something else at my ripe old age, But for now, it eats at me every day that this crew and I are capable of building something awesome, and I want people to have a chance to play our idea of awesome.
That's very commendable, obviously, and you've mentioned like the game as you want it to be, like the game in its current state. How do you feel taking people's money for the game as it is right now, like in early access still, and how does that feel to you?
Well, there've been times where, we've lost a crew member or something. I felt really awful about it after we launched on early access and we lost our lead programmer. And we made this big promise that Pro Wrestling X is going to be updated regularly, and people bought it on early access. And then we just went quiet. I'm not quiet literally. We kept updating people through newsletters and that, but we could not physically update the game for months, right? And that sucked. That took the wind out of our sails. But luckily we kept going. And how do I feel about it now? I feel friggin' great, man. It's like $9.99. Like, give me a break. That's pretty reasonable for what we've got right now. The game that we have on early access right now is, like, functionally and scope wise, it is at least 20 times the game we promised when we launched our Kickstarter, right? And it is, if you look at what we launched with on early access, we just had 2 wrestlers in a ring, no crowd, no match modes, no nothing. And the only move you could do was punch and brainbuster.
Yeah, I remember that build.
So that was a little bit, okay, people are giving us money because they like and support us as a crew, not necessarily because the game was worth $10. Now it is, right? And I feel pretty good about it. And it's particularly because I made a conscious decision to leave the video on the Steam sales page, like the pitch video, which shows people what the game is like. Mm-hmm. That video is at least 2 years out of date. Mm-hmm. That when people look at that video and decide to plop down $9.99, they're floored when they open the game, and it's got like 20 times more shit in it than the video ever promised. And the video itself says, don't buy it. Don't buy this game. It's not finished yet. It's glitchy. It's going to be, suffers from all sorts of things because we're building it in public in front of you guys, right? So I feel pretty good that we were completely honest in our pitch and everything on the Steam page. We actively tell people it's not finished. Don't buy it if you want a finished game. So if someone still plops down their money and is disappointed, I honestly, I wouldn't know what to tell them, man. We way over delivered what we said we would in the sales pitch for the game. So yeah.
So when does the game leave early access is the question.
Beats the shit out of me, Rich. Honestly, we have been probably for the last year eternally just a few months away from getting this game out of early access. But things happen, and some of our core crew had to take some pretty grueling day jobs to make ends meet. Didn't leave them a lot of time. It's not an excuse, just an explanation, Things have picked up. We've been getting some more internal updates here, builds from the crew with new stuff. The big thing we did that we decided to do a year ago, which I knew was going to take longer than anybody anticipated, was we completely started from scratch again, updating to a more current version of the game engine we were using, right? So I know they always say, oh, it's just an engine upgrade, everything is just ported over nice and easy, and it never goes that way, right? So that was almost like building the game again from scratch. So that took a while, but that's why we're trying to put the core crew, we're trying to lure them away from their day jobs for at least 3 months or so they can crank on this sucker and leave early access and get a proper 1.0 version of the game. You know, stick a fork in it, it's done, put it out. But honestly, once we leave early access, we actually want to increase the amount of the frequency of updates we do to the game. Like, we're not looking to leave early access and then forget about it, you know? We would like to, and it sounds aggressive, but we would honestly love to update the game at least once a week with new content, new match modes, and bigger gameplay, more features. At least once a week, we'd like to update it in some way and keep growing the game as a platform, as a wrestling sandbox. You know, not just a game that's like just put on the market and forgotten about. You know. Absolutely.
So, I mean, just to throw in there, like talk about, you know, you get to version 1.0 and the game is, as a core, the game is complete. And you're now doing your weekly updates. What's the first thing, like as a wrestling fan and a wrestling game fan, what match type or thing would you love to add first?
Oh man, I never thought about this question. We've got some things we've been tinkering on in like private that we haven't announced yet, so I don't want to spoil anything. But I can honestly say, we really want to pursue our philosophy we've had for a long time now, which is we want to do what the WWE games and any other wrestling game really can't do or refuses to do, right? So when I think of what match type we want next, I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer to add something standard like a ladder match or something, and yeah, that would be cool and that would be awesome. But I'm sorry, you can already have a ladder match in 100 other wrestling games, and yes, we will do that. It'll be coming. But I would really rather do something you can't get in any other wrestling game. Like, do you know how many people pop when they see that we have a scaffold match in our game?
I've got to say, as a player of your game, that was sick. When that scaffold match got added, I marked out like crazy.
Right? And what's ironic?
No,
you never get
perfect.
it.
Like,
and there's a reason for that, because it's a painfully boring match to play.
Yeah. But it's in there. And that's the important thing. Yeah. It's, you know, what was the old EA thing, the EA Sports? It's in the game, right?
Yeah.
And that was their thing for years, for decades, was if it's in the game, it's in the game, you know? So, like, I'd switch on FIFA in, like, 94 on the Mega Drive, and, man, that's taking it back. And that first thing would be, it's in the game, you know, and all that stuff. And people dug it because it was accurate. And, you know, you said it yourself, like some of the best matches I've had in WWE games have been casket matches or, you know, the really random crap that you just don't get. I'll tell you what is missing though, and this is 2 matches I would love, and if there's any way of you guys adding them to your game, man, it would be insane. I always wanted, do you remember the Kennel from Hell?
Oh my God, yes.
So imagine that, but done properly. Right? With actual, like, the dogs are proper rabid, not just like little puppies that are shitting outside the ring, but actual rabid dogs.
You know what, though? If we do that, the dogs have to shit outside the ring.
Of course they do.
So you can slam people in piles of dog shit.
I mean, God, you don't get much more hardcore than that.
I am unapologetically a 14-year-old on the inside, man, and I'm sorry, man, but if we're going to be the only wrestling game with dog shit, then dog shit it is. Let's do it. I love that idea. I can't believe I never thought, but yet you're right on the right track, man. Let's do stuff that no one else will touch. Like, what was the what was that match type? Was it WWF or WCW where they wrestled in a semi truck going down the road?
Oh my God, I think that was WCW. Someone's going to correct me on this, and that's really terrible. I don't remember. I'm sure I've got it in my head. It was WCW that did it.
Yeah, let's do that. You know, I mean, our kind of thing just kind of generalizing, is that we're really trying to go for the extreme, hardcore, mature kind of content that, WWE with their PG themes are never going to touch, right? So you're never going to get that kind of stuff from WWE, no matter how much money they throw at their games. They're not going to do it because it's a choice, right? So, I of course, there's all kinds of deathmatch stuff that I want to do, and we've been tinkering on some stuff here that I hope we can announce soon. To make that kind of stuff happen. But yeah, I just want interesting, stuff that hasn't been done.
Hey, if we're talking WCW, Tower of Doom match. What was it? A triple cell kind of monstrosity,
cage.
Yeah.
What's funny about that is we've already developed all the platform mechanics and everything to do that. It's a matter of just doing the art, getting it done. And I know our programmer could add that match type in a day. That's what's so frustrating. It's a happy kind of frustrating. But if you look at all the game mechanics and features that we've already put out there, even in really early proof of concept stages in the current playable of the game on Steam, you could see that this crew has already proven that they can pretty much do anything if given the time to do it. So yeah. It's a really nice place to be right now, where you're like, sky's the limit. Now we have the crew that can actually do anything. Crap, they have to work day jobs because Pro Wrestling X needs to be able to put these guys on salary for like a year. And imagine what we could do.
I'm gonna throw in anyway, kennels and whatever aside. I'm gonna throw in one. Like, my inner child is screaming at me to ask you this question. So, from a personal level, I have always, in wrestling games, wanted a goddamn steel chair that dents properly when you hit someone with it. Please.
Serious?
Yeah, it's the only thing I've ever wanted. Like, I go back to the original SmackDown games on PS1, right, and beyond, like to the SNES games, and my favourite game for actual weapons that react, bloody WWF Raw on the SNES, right? Because you hit someone with a steel chair and it bends in half. You watch old WWF stuff and old ECW and all that, and you hit someone in the head with a steel chair and that motherfucker bends. So why don't they do it in games? Like, help me out here.
You can now. In fact, we did have, we had exactly what you're describing in our first Pro Wrestling X Uprising game that we released 5 years ago. Yeah, the chair would actually dent and fall apart after you use it too many times. And honestly, the earlier games couldn't really do that because it was kind of hard on the hardware to add too much deformation to objects and have them break apart. That's why weapons in the old Nintendo 64 days would disappear after you drop them.
Of course.
Because
that frustration, yeah.
Yeah, it would just slow down the frame rate. Now there's no reason why you can't do that. And honestly, without giving away too much of some surprises we have in store, our artist, again, he's a wrestling fan, and he's thinking exactly like you are. So whenever he gives us a new weapon to test out in the game, he gives us various versions of that weapon in various states of being broken or decaying or whatever you want to call it. And then it's up to programmer to make it work, So yeah, we're already thinking like that, man. That's awesome.
That's great stuff, and that pleases the inner child in me. So I'm happy that that's going on.
That's awesome, man. All I want to be able to do now, and we kind of already pulled this off by fluke, is when you pile drive someone on top of a chair that's flying in the ring, man, I want that to make a difference, I want to hear the clang, and also, if you're bleeding and someone hits you with a steel chair, I want your blood on that chair, man,
And 2K have only just started doing that in the last few years as well, with the, if you punch someone, it gets on their knuckles, or if you hit the chair, it gets on the chair, but it's a canned, texture, or is it a decal they call it, I think? Yeah. You want it actual dripping down the chair, right?
Well, that's what we're working on, right? Like right now, our blood system is pretty over the top and crazy. You can stain the mat with as much blood as you want. It doesn't fade away or go away, right? So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's exactly the kind of stuff what we want to do. That randomness, that's why it was such a thrill for us to actually see real-time physics with objects. Like when you break a table in our game now, this isn't released to the public yet, but you can see videos of it, our development videos on YouTube and whatnot. When you break a table, it's not a canned animation. That table breaks and falls apart explicitly because of what angle and what velocity you've hit it from. It's not a canned animation, so it's fun as hell because you got all this randomness. You got this sandbox kind of aspect to a wrestling game that you'd never really had before. And then the wheels start turning where you start thinking, okay, what else can we add to this game to make it more random and more lifelike, So it increases the potential for glitches 100-fold. And we've got some crazy glitch videos you can see when people Twitch it and everything, but it comes. You know what? You got to break some eggs, man. So
well, look at how well Goat Simulator did, and that was full of glitches. That was literally glitches galore. So those are some of the most entertaining things I've ever seen.
I gotta say, I've never done an interview where someone dropped a Goat Simulator reference before.
Oh, so you get them all with me, pal. Hey, you've never done one where someone mentioned the kennel from hell either, right? So
right. See, this is you are exactly the target market for our game. If I can sound like a marketing douchebag for a second, man, like we've always said that we're building this game for ourselves, for ourselves to play. We're not trying to make it for the widest possible audience and sell the most copies. Nah, man, we're making a batshit crazy game that we want to play because no one's going to make this game for us. But guys like you who can drop channel references and shit like that, you'll love it too.
Too right. It's the Frank Zappa model. We've talked about that before. The idea of he made all his music for himself and didn't care if he was remembered or not. It's that kind of, if I make it for me, at the very least, I'm going to have something that I like. So, and if other people like it, great.
Yeah, exactly. And again, maybe it's not that I'm some, brave avant-garde artist by any means. I'm just an old dude in his basement trying to get a wrestling game made, but maybe it is because I'm getting older now and I've already been through the meat grinder of doing shitty jobs just for the paycheck and being unhappy on the weekends because I didn't want to go to work on Monday now. Now Pro Wrestling X, I hate the weekends because everybody's gone and we can't get anything done or work, and there's no one to talk to or meet with. Like, I can't wait for Monday now, man, because I get to chase all these dreams and opportunities for this stupid little wrestling game. It's making me a pretty happy guy.
And it's that old adage, isn't it? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah, but there's also, I don't know if you've seen it, it's been going around too, where people talk about, if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life, but also there's no separation between work and home. You'll end up resenting the thing you love because it's all you can think about. And it's totally true, man. Ironically, I play way less video games now that I make them. And I choose my gaming very, very carefully. Where I used to be able to sit 8 hours and tinker around with like a dozen different games at once, now I honestly pick one, maybe two games, and I play them to completion before I move on to the next.
So what's in your system at the minute? What are you playing at the moment?
Red Dead Redemption, man.
There's the sequel.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I just like. And I think this kind of carries over into what we try to do with Pro Wrestling X and making it really open and random and lifelike. Is I like turning on a game, man, and just being able to do whatever the hell I want to do. Like it makes it so much more fun when you're not really tied into someone else's narrative or what they think you should be doing, But on the other hand, I can completely contradict myself. And my other favorite game that I played recently is the latest Wolfenstein game, because it's about nothing more than move forward, shoot Nazis in the face, keep moving forward, shoot more Nazis in the face. Like, that's pretty therapeutic, man. I love that kind of shit too.
That's awesome. So I've got to bring it back to a couple of last fan questions. So, bear with on this one because we kind of headed out of the loop of where I wanted to head, but that was an important conversation to have about, just fun. Like, you got to have fun, whatever you're doing. Obviously, going back to the early days, there was the Kickstarter to fund the game, and people just want to know basically where are their Kickstarter rewards.
Yeah, fair enough question. they don't have them yet because I haven't had them all made up yet, man, because I really sucked at the Kickstarter, managing that as well as I should have. All the money went into paying programmer and art, and a programmer that didn't last, so that kind of sucked. So now I'm left holding the bag here, trying to get all the Kickstarter rewards made up. I mean, it's a shitty excuse to say, yeah, I sucked at that and dropped the ball, but I do need to get that fixed up here in the next few months. And I've said that multiple times over the last year or two, right? So I have absolutely no credibility when I tell people, yeah, man, I know I'm going to get these Kickstarter rewards done. But, you know, I hope that the sting of not having all the rewards delivered yet, and we have started delivering a lot of the digital rewards and whatnot, so it's not like we ran from it. But I do hope that there's a small, you know, consolation that the game that we promised everybody in the Kickstarter campaign has been well surpassed and like 20 times over. So I hope people at least are like happy with, you know, that we definitely focused on making the game and kind of sucked at getting some t-shirts made. Yeah.
Sure. And obviously, like, you know, you've got a bigger team now than you had when you started up the Kickstarter, obviously.
Actually, you know, it's not that we have a bigger team, but we have a different team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, like, yeah, it kind of sucked. Like when we first got the Kickstarter money, a significant chunk of it went to a crew member who then proceeded to quit.
Oh, nice.
So it was one of those kind of, and honestly, it wasn't a nefarious situation. He was just offered a job that he could not refuse. So I don't really hold it against him, but yeah. Sure. Yeah, he got a lot of money. Got a lot of Pro Wrestling X money. At least, you know, a significant amount that I wish I could have, you know, got back and spent on the programmer I have now. But it is what it is. You know, now I gotta deal with it. So yeah.
Sure. And transverse to that, obviously, you know, that's a situation that couldn't be avoided, and someone that's, you know, obviously been a big part of the game in its history. But is there anybody in particular that you'd like to give some praise to that doesn't normally get noticed? I like to finish things up on a positive, you know?
You know, man, I mean, in terms of, God, there's so many people that I never talk about that really help us. Like my accountant, nobody knows who the accountant is, but let me tell you, man, that guy has been worth his weight in gold. It sounds like a stupid guy to call out, right? But yeah, the accountant has been rock solid. I mean, when you're funding a project like this, and you got contractors and you've got government, you know, you got taxes to pay and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I want to do for a living. So I'm very happy to pay an accountant to do it, and he's been killer and supportive for many years. Even our lawyer, right? Very seldom our lawyer is the unsung heroes, but I mean, very recently we had a huge issue about something that I wanted to do, and it was not to go down the rabbit hole, but what I wanted to do was very legally questionable.
Okay.
So
do I dare ask?
No, I can't talk about it yet, man. But you know, so I was very, very fortunate that, you know, at the very early stages of this project, I met and started working with a lawyer who wasn't just an intellectual property trademark copyright lawyer, but very specifically a video game trademark intellectual property lawyer. So he's been gold, man. I can run scenarios by him. And it's just so nice to know that you got someone in your corner, rock solid, that says, this is the law, you know? So, because I could have definitely stepped in some shit a few times if I didn't have some good legal advice, right? So that's been awesome. But honestly, what really pains me the most is that for various reasons, some of our very, very key crew that are totally responsible for 99% of what's good about Pro Wrestling X, the game that you can play right now, they actually don't want the spotlight. You know, they actually kind of like doing what they're doing in kind of anonymity for a variety of reasons, right? So I hope one day I get to haul these guys out and like have them get the applause they deserve, because I might be the guy who talks about Pro Wrestling X and the voice of it, the face of it, whatever you want to call it. I literally don't make this game. I very literally have not built Pro Wrestling X. So I kind of cringe a little bit when someone say, you know, Dave Wishnowski, the guy behind Pro Wrestling X. I'm really not. I'm the guy in front of Pro Wrestling X, but it's this actual crew, especially our programmer, our lead artist, animator. These are the guys that are the legendary fucking team actually making this game for people to play. So I definitely hope they get their moment in the sun, man.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's, you know, something I just personally, obviously as a player of the game and a lover of the game, and I'm sure there's many others, would like to extend our thanks to the team. And, you know, we're eternally grateful for what they do, and it does go very much unsung. So thank you to them.
It does, man. Like, I can honestly say, like, yeah, I have very strong ideas about what I want Pro Wrestling X to be and what I think is important for it to be in it. But the game wouldn't look or play or feel like the game it was today if we had any other team behind it. It just wouldn't, because my ideas and stuff have to get translated through other people who are way smarter and more talented than I am at what they do. You know what I mean? So Pro Wrestling X should never, you know, be referred to as Dave Wishnowski's game, because it really, really, in every sense of the word, is not mine. You know, I might have started pushing this boulder up the hill, but it wouldn't have budged for the last few years if I didn't have these awesome guys helping me push it for real, you know?
That's awesome, man. Well, I've just got to ask, you know, is there anything you want to plug? Any social media links? You know, give us all the places we can find you.
Well, all the usual places, man. You can find Pro Wrestling X on, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We just fired up a new YouTube channel that we're starting to build out, because we have sucked at putting out video content for the last few years. So trying to change that. Just go to our website, prowrestlingx.com, and there's links to everything. There's even a newsletter you can sign up for that we've been sending out. I've been writing a newsletter weekly since we started this. Telling everybody exactly the truth about what's going on with Pro Wrestling X, and I think we're up to newsletter 879 or something ridiculous. So I know, right?
You really need a hobby, don't you? You know.
Oh man, yeah.
Cool. I'm sure I'll stick the links in the description as well below this, so people can find you quite easily. And,
thanks, bud.
No worries, man. Well, thank you, Dave, for letting me grill you on behalf of the friends and foes of Pro Wrestling X. Hopefully, you know, we've been able to shed some light on the aspects of indie game development that you don't really normally get to hear or see about. Obviously, don't forget to grab some merch from smacktalk.co.uk. Everything you buy helps us provide more unique and diverse content. And as always, subscribe, like, share this video, and check out our other content. We'll see you on the next one.